Hello students, anyhow it's 10:10, we will start the class, okay? They will join later.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Okay, now I'm starting the sharing the PPT. Now before we start, actually in your syllabus, in the first block, you have the units on biological classification, taxonomy, as well as systematics. Okay, so before going to that, actually the classification and all those things, first you should have a broad idea about what do you mean by classification, what do you mean by taxonomy, and what do you mean by systematics. Okay, so now here, now what is classification? Classification is nothing but arrangement of organisms, okay, into groups based on some trait similarity. Trait means nothing but character. So based on the similarity of the characters, we can classify the organism. So that is what we call classification. So classification deals with what? Arrangement of organisms into different groups based on certain similarity. Similarity in what sense? Similarity in their characters. So that is what we call it as classification. Now, what do you mean by taxonomy then? What is the difference between classification and taxonomy? Taxonomy is nothing but naming of organisms and then dividing them into different categories or dividing them into different groups. So here taxonomy deals with the naming of the organisms and their categorization or their division. So that is what we call it as taxonomy. And what do you mean by systematics? I think in your syllabus you have got systematics. So systematics is nothing but clustering of all the groups or grouping, the different organisms based on certain principles, like based on their evolutionary significance or based on certain characteristics, we call them as systematics. So don't get confused. So these are the three different concepts in the classification. One is the, how to name the organisms. What is the criteria for naming of the organisms? What do you mean by taxonomy? How you classify the organisms? And what do you mean by systematics? So these are three different concepts. So today we are going to deal with only on biological classification, how the animals are classified based on certain characteristic features or based on certain similarities, similar characters, how they have been classified. Okay. So now is it okay? So taxonomy is what? Naming of organisms and their categorization into different groups or into different divisions. Whereas classification is arrangement of organisms into different classes, you can say, or into different groups. Yes, the classification. And systematics actually will deal with the clustering or of the groups of the organisms based on certain principles, like their evolutionary significance or their ancestral phenomena, or whatever it may be the reason. So that is what we call systematics. Is it okay? Yes? Yes, students? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
So that is what. So don't get confused with these three terminology. Taxonomy is different, classification is different, systematics is different. But when you are considering the classification and when we are talking about the classification, then these three terms, okay, you should know very, very clearly. So now today we are going to deal with biological classification. So how these animals are classified. Not only the animals, in those days actually, several scientists actually work for this classification. So it includes both plants and animals, but we are going to concentrate more on the the animal side. But before the scientists, what they did, because plants are also living organisms, animals are also living organisms, so they considered both the plants and the animals together, and they have given as the biological classification. Okay, so here in this case, so classification is nothing but arrangement. Just now I have told you, it is the arrangement of organisms into various groups, or you get into various taxa, you can say, based on certain distinctive characteristic features. Okay, reflecting their similarities as well as dissimilarities. So all the the groups which are having the similar characters will be grouped together, and the other groups which are having the dissimilar characters will be they will be put into another group. So like that, they have actually classified the organism. So it is basically arrangement of organisms into various groups, you can say, or various taxa based on their distinctive characteristic features. Either they may be similarities or dissimilarities. So why this classification is important? Why do you need this classification? Is it essential? So why? Because you have number of plants are there, number of animals are there. So it is very, very difficult. So in those days, actually, it was very difficult to classify the plants, classify the animals. So for that reason, several scientists actually has worked on this concept, and they gave us a very, very in a simplified way, the classification of the animals. So today we are able to actually easily identify which animal belongs to which category or which plant belongs to which file, the class and all those things. Okay, so they have simplified the classification in a very significant manner. So the classification of these living organisms is essential because there are several aspects. One is it makes the study of the living organisms very easy and convenient. We can easily understand which particular animal belongs to which phyla or which particular plant belongs to which taxa and all those things. So the study of one or two organisms can help us to understand the distinctive characters of the entire group. So we can know, suppose if you are studying one phyla, say for example. So if you study the characteristic feature of this particular phyla, easily you can understand. Okay, so not only taking one example or two examples, but the whole phyla characteristic features you can easily understand. So that is the concept of classification. Second is it makes the study systematic way, and it also helps in understanding the relationships between the different groups of organisms, and it also helps us or give you a clue regarding their evolutionary relationships. So these are the basic, because of these fundamental reasons, classification is very essential. So classification of the living organisms is essential because it will make you understand very easily. It will make you convenient to study the all the living organisms. Then it makes the study in a systematic manner, in an orderly manner, and it also helps you to understand the various relationships that occur between these organisms. And also it will tell you about their evolutionary relationships, means which organism actually has evolved from which ancestor. So what is their ancestral phenomena? What is their evolutionary significance? So for these reasons, classification is very essential. Okay, so that is how the classification has come into existence, and various authors have put forward their views. Now we'll see one by one what is the history of classification, who are the scientists actually who contributed in this particular field and made the study very easier. Okay, now coming to history of classification. Now the first attempt of classification was made by Aristotle, who was a great, philosopher, and he belongs to the Greek. So he's a Greek philosopher called as Aristotle, and today we call him as a father of zoology because he studied most of the animals. So that is why we call him as the father of zoology. So the first attempt of classification was made by him, and he classified the animals into two groups. Okay, based on what? Based on nothing but the presence of the red blood cells. Presence of red blood cells. So lacking of red blood cells and having of red blood cells, that means presence of blood cells. So what he did is he classified the organisms into two groups. One is called as anema, that is ANAIMA. Anema means invertebrates, that is having the red blood, lacking the red blood cells, sorry. And enema means vertebrates which consists of the red blood cells. So he classified in a very simple manner. What he did is he took vertebrates and invertebrates, and he said that invertebrates do not consist of the red blood cells, whereas the vertebrates have got the red blood cells. So simply he classified these organisms into two groups. What did he say? He classified them into two groups. One is anema, that is ANIAMA, that is invertebrates, and enema, that is ENAIMA, that is vertebrates. So anema, invertebrates do not possess red blood cells, whereas the enema, that is vertebrates, possess the red blood cells. So that is how he classified the organisms into two groups. This was the first attempt of the classification that was made by him, and he divided simply into two groups. One is invertebrates, you can say, and another one is vertebrates lacking the red blood cells and possessing the red blood cells. Okay. Now, next is he also classified the organisms on the basis of their habitat. First is based on the presence of red blood cells or absence of red blood cells. Second classification, what he did is he classified the animals based on their habitat. Like some of the animals live in water, some of them live in the air, and some of them live only on the land. So that is why based on their habitat, he has classified the animals into different habitat groups like aquatic animals, aerial animals, as well as the terrestrial animals. Aquatic animals means the animals which live in water. Aerial means like birds and all those things which have their, occurrence only in the air. They live only in the air. And some terrestrial means which live on the land. So he classified them on the basis of their habitat into these three different categories. And based on the these two categories he have classified. Apart from the animals, he also classified the plants, okay, on the basis of their stem and life duration, like into herbs, shrubs, and trees. Now, if you take the plant, some of the plants will be very small, some of the plants will be a little bit bigger, and some of them will be in the form of trees. So based on their stem life and duration, he classified them into herbs, or you can say based on their the length, or you can say their height. He has classified them into herbs. Small trees he classified them into as herbs. Then a little bigger he classified them as shrubs, and very biggest he classified them as the trees. So that is how he classified the plants into three different categories. One is the herbs, shrubs, as well as the trees. So this is actually the classification, maybe the first attempt of classification, which was made by Aristotle, who is considered to be the father of zoology. First, he concentrated on animals. He divided the animals into two groups based on the presence or absence of the red blood cells. That is, one is anema and the other one is enema. Anema means lacking the red blood cells, that is invertebrates, and enema means vertebrates, presence of the blood cells. So that is how he classified. Then another classification, he concentrated on classifying the organisms based on their habitat, like aquatic habitat, aquatic animals, aerial animals, as well as terrestrial animals. Then apart from the animals, he also classified plants on the basis of their stem and life duration into herbs, shrubs, as well as the trees. So this is the first, the attempt of classification which was made by Aristotle. Now we will see who has actually, whether his classification was accepted or whether what are the merits of his classification and what are the demerits of his classification. Okay, so this is about the classification that was given by the Aristotle, the first attempt he has made. Now they say that many of the scientists again who followed him later on, actually found out some fault, and they considered as the demerits. Some of them are merits and some of them are demerits as such. Okay, so merits are very, very less. Of course, demerits will be more. Now one is, though he has attempted the first attempt actually on the classification, but his classification also has got some of the demerits or the defaults. Now what are those? They say that his classification could not be accepted because it was only an artificial system of classification. And they argued that the
Ma'am, sound is not coming, ma'am.
was regarded by many of the scientists. So that is how his classification could not be accepted. So now understood now. So first classification which was made by Aristotle could not be accepted because though he has made first attempt, he has actually considered the animals based on their habitat, no doubt, and classified the animals into aquatic, terrestrial, as well as the aerial. But certain animals, like if you take the amphibians, for example, some of the amphibians, they live in the water, and some of the amphibians, they live on the land. So if you take this into consideration, you cannot actually accept his classification. So that is how his classification was disregarded, or it was not accepted. Now, the next scientist actually was the Theophrastus. Now, the Theophrastus actually is considered to be the father of botany. Like Aristotle, we consider as father of zoology. Likewise, Theophrastus is the scientist who is considered as the father of botany. So he classified the plants. So he concentrated more on the plants. So what he did is, based upon the habitat, form, as well as the texture, he classified the plants or grouped the plants in like group the plants into herbs, shrubs, undershrubs. Okay, herbs, shrubs, undershrubs, as well as the trees. What Aristotle did? He classified into herbs, shrubs, as well as the trees. He did not consider as undershrubs. Directly, he said herbs, shrubs, and trees. But here, Theophrastus, who is considered to be the father of botany, classified the plants into 4 different groups like herbs, shrubs, undershrubs, as well as the trees. And he actually talked about nearly 480 plants in his book, like Historia Planetarium. And later on, he described the plants by their uses, and also he attempted the biological classification. And he has actually, whatever the work that he has done, he has put it in the form of the books, like his different books, like his book, which is called as the Historia Planetarium, and another book, the Historia Planetarium. So different volumes actually has come, and he has concentrated on the medicinal uses of the plants and all those things. Okay. So likewise, so he concentrated only on the classification of the plants. So that is the reason why we consider him to be the father of botany. So the first attempt of classification was made by Aristotle. He classified the animals first into two different categories, that is invertebrates and vertebrates, based on the absence or presence of the red blood cells. Second attempt he made, based on their habitat, he classified them into what? Aquatic, aerial, as well as terrestrial. And the third one, actually, he also classified the plants and divided them into different groups like what? Herbs, shrubs, as well as the trees. Another scientist by name Theophrastus, who is considered to be the father of botany, he concentrated more on the plants. So he classified the plants, and based on their habitat, he divided them into different groups like herbs, shrubs, undershrubs, as well as the trees. Okay. Is it okay, girls? Students, hello?
Okay,
Yes?
ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Clear, ma'am.
Okay. Now, next, another scientist by name Candolle, or Augustine Pyramus de Candolle, or Pyramus. So he is called by three different names. You can just call him as Candolle. So he introduced the term taxonomy. What he did, he introduced the term taxonomy in his book, okay, which is called as Theory or Elementary Theory of Botany. So he also stressed more on the botany, towards the botany side, in the year 1813. So he concentrated. So he just introduced, his contribution is only for just regarding the introduction of the term, which is nothing but taxonomy in his book. Okay. So this is his contribution. Now another scientist by name John Ray, who is again a natural scientist. So what he did, he introduced the concept of species in the classification. So you should be able to know, when you talk about the classification, you should know what is taxa, okay, or taxonomy. What do you mean by species? What do you mean by the phylum? What do you mean by division, and all those things? This scientist, actually, I'll come to that later. Now, John Ray, he has introduced for the first time the concept of species, okay, in the classification. He introduced and defined the term species in his book. Okay. So in his book, like Historia Generalis Plantarium, he used the term species in his book Generalis Plantarium, and he described about more than 18,000 plants and animals. And what he did is, he divided the plants into two divisions, like you have imperfect and perfect. And he further divided these perfecta into different life forms like trees, shrubs, subshrubs, and the herbaceous plants. Okay, so this is how he has given. So now first was Aristotle, second one was the Theophrastus, the third one was the John Ray, and now coming to the I think fourth one was the John Ray. One second. Yeah. Third is the scientist by name Candolle. Yes. 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 Any doubt?
Third one is the candle, ma'am.
Candolle. Yeah. Third scientist was the Candolle, who has introduced the term taxonomy, and fourth was the John Ray, who has introduced the term species. Okay. So this is how he has given. He also concentrated, more on the plants. So that's the reason why he divided the plants into two divisions, like imperfect division and perfect division. And he further divided this perfect, the plants into different forms, like you have trees, shrubs, subshrubs, and the herbaceous plants. So this is how he has given the classification. Now, another scientist by name Carl Linnaeus. Now, Carl Linnaeus, you all know, he is a very, very famous scientist. So he was a Swedish naturalist, and who is considered to be the father of taxonomy, because the credit goes to him. Lastly, Carl Linnaeus was a scientist who has actually given us divided the phyla into different kingdoms, and he has given the how to categorize. Like he said kingdom, then phylum, then you have the family, order, species, and all those things. So that is why Carl Linnaeus, who is a Swedish naturalist, who is considered to be the father of taxonomy, he concentrated more on the sexual system of classification. He considered both the sexes and he has concentrated on the sexual system of classification. So today, most of us actually agree with his system of classification. And that is the reason why he is considered to be the father of taxonomy. So what he did is, he listed all the animals, okay, known to him in his book called Systema Naturae, and he categorized and named about almost 4,000 species of animals. And also the plants, not only the animals, he also categorized all the plants, about 8,000 species of the plants in his book Species Plantarium, and he has given the taxonomical hierarchy. Now, taxonomical hierarchy means based on their taxonomy, he has classified both the plants as well as the animals into different phyla, into different groups, and he has given us. So that is why he is considered to be the father of taxonomy. So what we are talking about, that binomial nomenclature, we say, no, we talk about the species, okay, like generic name as a genus as well as a species. So the credit goes to him. So the Carol Linnaeus was the scientist who has given this. So the binomial nomenclature is given by this particular scientist. So that is why he is considered as the most important scientist and also to be known as the father of taxonomy. So he has actually listed almost all the animals, about 4,000 animals, about 8,000 species of the plants in his different books, and he has given the taxonomical hierarchy. Okay, so that this is about the Carol's Linnaeus. Now, another scientist by name Bentham and Hooker. Now, we like George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker. So they gave the natural system of classification of the seeded plants. Again, actually, they concentrated on the plants, and they published a book called as the Genera Plantarium, which described about 202 families of the angiosperms. So that is how Bentham and Hooker classification also is very, very famous. Now, after him, Engler and Karl Prantl gave the phylogenetic system of classification of plants in their book. So this is how now different scientists actually have contributed their work both on the plants as well as the animals. Now we'll see what are the different systems of classification, how the classification, what are the different systems of classification, under these different systems of classification, how they have classified the organisms into different classes and based on what criteria they have classified. So this is only a brief history regarding how the different scientists actually have got involved in classifying the animals as well as in the plants. Okay, so now we will see what are the different systems of classification. Yes, students, is it okay? Hello?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Now coming to the systems of classification. Now basically, if we see, there are three systems or types of classification. What are those? One is the artificial system of classification. Then you have natural system of classification. Then you have phylogenetic system of classification. Now these classifications are very, very important. Okay. Now coming to the artificial system of classification, we'll see. Now how the animals or the plants actually have been classified based on this particular system. Now, this type of classification, they say, is based on the habitat, external features, that is morphology, or on the numeric number. Okay, morphology or on the numeric number of the sex organs. So, Linnaeus also put forward an artificial system of plant classification on the basis of numerical strength of sex organs into different classes, like you have monandria, diandria, polyandria, then you have dynamia, monoecia, cryptogamia, and etc. So we can say artificial system of classification actually is based on their habitat, their external features, then morphology. Morphology is nothing but external features only. Then next is on the numeric number of their sex organs. Now, if you take plants, you have androecium as well as the gynoecium. Now, if you take the animals, you have got the male as well as the female sex organs. So based on that, actually, this artificial system of classification is based, and not much is given regarding this. Only the scientist by name Carol's Linnaeus only has put forward an artificial system of classification based on the number of the sex organs, especially with reference to the plants. So he has classified them into different classes. About 24 classes actually he have classified. Based on, like you have androecium, gynoecium. Okay, so androecium actually is comes as the male, whereas gynoecium we talk about as a female. So based on that, he has classified them into monandria, diandria, polyandria. Then dynamia, like if you talk about gynoecium, like didynamia, like Monacia, Cryptogamia, etc. Okay. So this is about the artificial system of classification. Not much has been given. Only they have classified based on that. And only one of the scientists by name Carol Linnaeus only has put forward his views in classifying the animals based on the artificial system. Okay. Now coming to the demerits. So what are the demerits? So this theory could not be accepted. Why? Because they have given only the superficial characteristics they have taken into consideration. So that is why this system was not accepted, and also it did not take into account the relationship between different organisms, and also the organisms belonging to different groups were placed together. So like birds and bats were placed in the same group due to their ability to fly, for example. So that is the reason why we cannot consider such type of classification. So this artificial system classification was actually superficial. So only the superficial characteristics they have taken into consideration. So that is the reason why they have not considered, or you can say this theory was not accepted by the scientists. So this theory was disregarded. So what were the demerits? Just now we have seen. It did not take into account the relationship between different groups of animals. The next is the organisms belonging to different groups also were placed together. Like say, if you take, for example, birds. Birds are there and bats are there. So birds and bats, so they belong to totally different phyla. So can we consider them into one group? We cannot consider them. So because they fly, they have classified them into one group. So that is why this system actually was not accepted. Now coming to the next system of classification, that is natural system of classification. Now natural system of classification is based on natural affinities among the organisms. It was based on their morphology, their ultrastructure, their anatomy, their embryology, as well as also their physiological chemistry. So that is why natural system of classification stands good to some extent when compared to that of artificial system of classification. So it has stressed on the morphology, ultrastructure, that is anatomy. Anatomy means both the ultrastructure as well as the internal as well as external structure, and embryology, and also the physiological chemistry. So now we'll see how these under natural system of classification, the animals as well as the plants actually have been classified. Now, coming to the merits of the natural system of classification. What are those? Now, actually, they say it is better than the artificial system of classification. Here, they did not consider the habitat as characteristics for classifying the organisms. It considered the characteristics of each and every organism. It considered, okay, so it helped the related organisms to be placed only in one group, and the system, prevents placing together the non-related organisms. So only the related organisms actually were placed in this particular classification, and also it indicated the phylogenetic relationships also, as well as the origin of different taxa. So that is why it has got lot of merits on the natural system of classification. In artificial system, they have not taken into consideration. Only superficially they have classified. But here what they did, they have not considered an habitat, but they have considered the characteristics of each and every organism. So in one way, what happened? It helped the related organisms to be placed in one group only. And also it provided them, see, only the related groups they have considered. Non-related organisms they have totally excluded. So this system prevented the placing together the non-related organisms, and also the system indicated the phylogenetic relationship about the origin of different taxa also. That is why the system to some extent was accepted when compared to that of the artificial system of classification. Okay. So this is about the, now coming to the demerits. Again, apart from the merits, you also have got the demerits. No? So what is a demerit is, they say that it did not consider the habitat as characteristics for classification. So that is why they disregarded this. Okay. So no doubt they have considered the characteristics of each and every organism, and also they have only the closely related organisms they have put into one class and excluded the non-related organisms. And though they the system indicated the phylogenetic relationship, their ancestral relationship also they have been, but only drawback is they did not consider the habitat. That is the reason why again to some extent they disregarded this natural system. Now the third system is phylogenetic system of classification. Phylogenetic system is classification is based totally on the evolutionary relationship between different organisms. Evolutionary relationship means their ancestral relationship. Means from which group they have come, from where they have come, who are their ancestors, okay, how they have evolved. So this phylogenetic system of classification, since it relied only on their ancestral relationship or their evolutionary relationship, this classification actually has gained significance and it was actually accepted by one and all. So this classification actually is stressed on the organisms belonging to the same taxa should have a common ancestor. Like say for example, if you see all the organisms belonging to one phyla, like mammals, say for example, okay, then in that mammalia, class mammalia. So that means class mammalia might be having some of the characteristic features which have originated from their common ancestor. That means their ancestor might be the same. So that is why all the animals that come under the mammalia have been put together. So this is what we call it as phylogenetic system of classification, where it will tell you that the organisms belonging to that particular class or belonging to that particular phyla have the common ancestor. They have a common ancestor. So in such a system, what happens is the organisms belonging to the same group are believed to have a common ancestry. So, and it may be represented in the form of a family tree, which we call it as a cladogram. So you can represent, you can know. So just by drawing a family tree, you can know. So how you actually find out what do you say, the ancestors? So by just a drawing tree, that we call it as nothing but a phylogenetic tree or a cladistic tree, or you can call it as a cladogram. So cladogram is nothing but a representation, okay, of the ancestors in the form of a family tree. So you can say representation, or you can say a drawing where it shows you your the generation, present generation, past generation, and your ancestral generation. And if you put it in the form of a picture, or if you put it in the form of a tree, that representation, that picture, you call it as nothing but a cladogram. You call it as a cladogram. So it will tell you, just by drawing a family tree, you can know, okay, from where you have come, who are your ancestors. So that is what we call it as phylogenetic system of classification. Now, this phylogenetic system of classification actually have been divided into three. One chemotaxonomy, and the other one is numerical taxonomy. Okay, cytotaxonomy, chemotaxonomy, and numerical taxonomy. Yes, students, are you able to understand? Yes?
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Clear, ma'am.
Okay. So now we are into the phylogenetic system of classification. I told you now. Okay. So the phylogenetic system of classification actually is based on the evolutionary relationship or their ancestral relationship. Here they have considered the organisms into one group which have their common ancestors. Okay. So here such a system actually will tell you that the organisms belonging to the same group, they are believed to have a common ancestry. And this common ancestry, how do you indicate, how you represent? In the form of a tree. That tree you call family tree. That tree you call it as nothing but a cladogram. So the information from numerical taxonomy, cytotaxonomy, as well as the chemotaxonomy helps you in resolving the difficulties in the classification. So you can broadly classify this phylogenetic classification into three different. One is called cytotaxonomy. Second one is chemotaxonomy, and another one is numerical taxonomy. Now, cytotaxonomy actually is based on the study of chromosome number. We all know actually our genetic material is nothing but the chromosomes, that is DNA. So cytotaxonomy actually deals with the study of the chromosome number, its structure and its behavior during the cell division, and also the banding pattern of the chromosomes. So it helps us in finding out the lineage as well as the similarity among the different organisms. So under this category, you have to consider only the chromosomal number, chromosomal structure, its behavior during the division, and also the banding pattern of the chromosomes. So this particular type of classification actually will help you, okay, to find out the similarity in finding the lineage as well as the similarity among the organisms based on the chromosomes. Now, second category is chemotaxonomy. Now, chemotaxonomy actually is based on different chemical constituents of the organisms, like amino acids, alkaloids, proteins, etc. Now, the chemical constituents of the plants are specific and stable, thus they help in classification. Now, this chemotaxonomy will not hold good for the animals to some extent, but it will hold good for the plants because when we talk about the the chemical composition or the chemical constituents in the case of the animals, in case of human beings and all those things, it is stable. That means almost all the organic components, I mean the components that are present in the form of organic or inorganic, like proteins, amino acids and all those things, they are present, but only a little variation is there. But when we talk about with reference to the plants, here the chemical constants actually are specific to a particular plant and they are stable. So that is why this chemotaxonomy to some extent help in the classification with reference to the plants when compared to that of the animals. Okay. So this is about the chemotaxonomy. Now next is what? Numerical taxonomy. Numerical taxonomy is nothing but the number and the codes that are assigned to all the characters and the data is then processed. So this will actually this has something to do with deal with the computers. So this will help you out only by actually I mean, in one way, it is somewhat related with biosystematics, which deals with bioinformatics. Okay. Now here, numerical taxonomy has to apply. Here we have to apply the bioinformatics tools, that is a computer tools to know the numerical taxonomy. So here number and codes are assigned. So by using the computers, what they try to do is they try to actually find out, you might have heard about bioinformatics. Yes, students, have you heard about bioinformatics? Yes. Hello. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So what do you mean by bioinformatics? It is nothing but it is a relationship study of the biological organisms with the help of the computers. That is what we call it as bioinformatics. So what we do is using the computers, we try to extract the information that is related with the biological organisms. It may be plants or animals or whatever it is. So that subject we call it as nothing but bioinformatics. So you have here, so it is a very, very vast subject. You have to go into the the depth of that particular subject to find out from the taxonomy. Like say, for example, if you have, fossil study. Now, suppose long ago, if you want to, if you found any fossil, and if you want to find out from where it has actually come, then for that, what do you need to do? You need to study in depth. So only the bioinformatics actually tool will help you out to find out its ancestors, because it's not an easy task. You have to apply certain tools, and then through bioinformatics, you can apply. So what they say is numerical taxonomy actually deals. So here they give the codes are assigned to these characters. So they try to collect that fossil, and then they try to find out what are the characters that are being present, and that data, whatever they have collected, that they process it with the help of the computer. Okay, they put it in they put that character in the form of a data in the computer, and then they process it and then try to find out the characteristics, or they try to find out what is their actual ancestor, from where they have come. So that is how actually they deal with. So this subject actually is called as nothing but numerical taxonomy. So here computers make the numerical taxonomic studies easier, because by the conventional method or by the traditional method, it is very, very difficult. You cannot find out. Suppose if you have found any fossil remains, from where it has come, who are their ancestors, it is very, very difficult. So that is how actually they do it. They do it by applying the computers. So computers will make the numerical taxonomic study very, very easier. So this is what about the phylogenetic system of classification. So phylogenetic system of classification actually will give you the phylogenetic relationship. They have classified here. The classification is based on their ancestors, common ancestry, and they have categorized into three. What are those? One is called a cytotaxonomy, chemotaxonomy, and numerical taxonomy. Cytotaxonomy actually based on their chromosome number. It may be number, structure, behavior, as well as a banding pattern. Chemotaxonomy deals with the chemical constituents, whereas numerical taxonomy deals with the characters. Okay, so here what do they do is you have to apply the computers. Only computers can make the study very, very easier. So what do they do is they'll find out the characters of that particular animal, and then they will try to give a certain number and a code. That code they will feed it in the computer with the help of the data, whatever the data they have. Okay, with the help of the computer, using the various bioinformatic tools, you can find out their ancestors. So this is called as numerical taxonomy. Again, in this numerical taxonomy, we have three different types, that is alpha taxonomy, beta taxonomy, as well as the gamma taxonomy. Now, alpha taxonomy is based on morphological features. Beta taxonomy is based on morphological, anatomical, cytological, embryological features and biochemistry. Or gamma taxonomy is based on experimental, genetic, and evolutionary evidences. So this is how, or you can, instead of cytotaxonomy or chemotaxonomy, you can say, as well as the numerical taxonomy, you can also classify this phylogenetic classification into three different categories. I'll talk to you when I talk about taxonomy, this thing, that is alpha, beta, and gamma. So what is alpha? It is based on morphological features. What is beta? It is based on morphological, anatomical, cytological, embryological, as well as biochemistry, all. Whereas gamma is based on experimental, genetic, as well as the evolutionary evidences. So this is about the, what is a phylogenetic classification. Okay. Now we will see what are. Now after that, when once they have put forward their views, so what we'll see now, what are the different classification systems. Now we have talked about types of classification. Now we are going to deal with the different types, you can say, or the different classes or the systems of classification. Now, just now we have seen what do you mean by classification. Then we have also gone through the history, who are the various authors actually who were involved in classifying the animals as well as in the plants, how they have classified. And then also we have seen what are the different types of classification. That is, one is artificial system classification. Then you have talked about the natural system of classification. Then we have talked about the phylogenetic classification. Now we will see what are the different classification systems. Okay, so how these scientists actually, who are the scientists who have given different classification systems? Now, the first and the foremost is two kingdom classification system. Now, what do you mean by two kingdom classification system? Now, it was given by Carl Linnaeus in the year 1758. Now, he stressed on the mode of nutrition, presence or absence of the cell wall, locomotion, response to the stimuli, and based on these characters, he has divided the organisms into two kingdoms. One he has called it as plantae, and the other one he has called it as animal. So since he divided these organisms into two kingdoms, such a system you call it as nothing but two kingdom classification system. What do you call? You call it as two kingdom classification system. So it was given by whom? It was given by Carl Linnaeus. Okay, now forget the past history. Now what we have talked about till now, yes, are you able to understand? Yes, yes, students.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now, before I talked about what is classification, I have given you a brief introduction, a brief history of the classification. Then we have talked about the different types of classification. Okay. Now we are talking about the different classification systems. Okay. Who are the various scientists and how they divided these classification systems into how many kingdoms, whether they are divided into two kingdoms or three kingdoms or four kingdoms or five kingdoms. Okay. So one by one, we are going to watch this now. The first is two kingdom classification system. Now, two kingdom classification system actually is given by Carl Linnaeus. Yeah, Linnaeus. Now, what did he do? He considered what? The mode of nutrition. Then whether the cell wall is present or not, presence or absence of cell wall, and whether they are motile or not, so locomotion, and also whether they respond to stimuli or not. So these four characteristics he has considered, and he divided all the living organisms, not only plants or animals, he divided all, means both plants and animals, into two kingdoms. And he called it as one kingdom as plantae and the other one as animalia. So kingdom plantae was characterized by, so what, why, how, though he has given, so kingdom plantae, under kingdom plantae, what are the characteristic features that he has taken? So he has included all the animals, all the organisms which consists of all these characters under one category, that is kingdom plantae. What is that? One is by the presence of cell wall and central vacuole, then nutrition, autotrophic nutrition, absence of nervous system, sense organs and locomotion, and the starch as the reserve food material. So well-defined growing point should be there with unlimited growth. So what he did, he classified, he placed the bacteria, fungi, algae, bryophyte, pteridophyte, gymnosperms, angiosperms, means all plants in the plant kingdom. Apart from the plants, he considered bacteria, as well as the fungi also. Of course, fungi also will come in that. So he has included even bacteria into his classification under plantae. So that means, so here what he did, he grouped the bacteria, fungi, algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms. You all know actually they are the different classes which come under the plant kingdom. So all of them he considered under one group, and he has given the name as the kingdom plantae. So under kingdom plantae, what do they have? They have a cell wall, they have a central vacuole, they are autotrophic in nutrition, and they don't possess the nervous system, sense organs, as well as locomotion. Like bacteria do not have all these things now. Likewise, and starch is their food material. And they have well-defined growing points with the unlimited growth. So that is why he has put them under one kingdom. Now, the second kingdom, what he did, he actually considered as animalia. Animalia. So he divided, or he what do you say, put all the animals, okay, into one kingdom, that is kingdom Animalia. So all the organisms that are put under this kingdom Animalia showed these characteristic features. What are those? Absence of cell wall and central vacuole. You all know the cell wall and central vacuole is not present in animals. It is present only in the plants. So that is why animals do not possess the cell wall and they do not possess the central vacuole. So they come under this category. Then they demonstrate heterotrophic nutrition, you all know, because they cannot prepare their own food. That is why they are all heterotrophic in nutrition. And they possess nervous system, sense organs, as well as locomotion, because animals are motile. So that is why this particular characteristic feature will hold good. The next is the reserve food material is nothing but glycogen. And they do not have the well-defined growing points and limited growth, because they go on growing. Like the plants only possess the growing points and they have a limited growth, but the animals do not have. So that is why they do not come under the plantae, but they do come under the kingdom Animalia. So that is how he categorized these animals into different groups based on these four characteristic features. What are those? One is mode of nutrition, presence or absence of cell wall, locomotion, and the response to stimuli. So one kingdom is plantae and the other one is the Animalia. Yeah, Animalia means all animals will come under this. Okay. Now we will see what are the merits. So we can just say all the animals are put under Animalia except bacteria. Bacteria has included, comes under the plantae according to the two kingdom classification. So that is how you have to remember. Now coming to merits. Okay, what are the merits? The advantage of this is it initiated the first systematic way of classifying animals. Okay, it is the first attempt given by Carl Linnaeus. He has classified, he has taken a lot of stress, and he has given us a systematic way of the classification. Okay. And this system was also adopted all over the world for over a long time. Okay. But later on, due to some discrepancies, due to some demerits, this was disregarded or this was not accepted. Now, see what are the demerits. Now, merits are, okay, he has taken first systematic way, he has classified, no doubt. Okay. And it was accepted for a longer period. And later on, it was neglected. Now, see, we'll see what are the demerits. Now, they say that first formed organisms as reported were neither plants or animals. Okay. What they're saying is the first formed animals, you know, actually, they are not plants, they are not animals, but what are they? They are the prokaryotes. Yes or no? So it did not distinguish between prokaryotes and eukaryotes and placed bacteria along with eukaryotic groups in the plants. So that means their argument is that actually plants did not exist first, nor the animals did not exist first. It was the prokaryotes which existed first. So there is no distinguishing between the prokaryotes as well as the eukaryotes. Bacteria come under prokaryotes, whereas eukaryotes are come under eukaryotes. You have plants as well as animals. So that is why he did not distinguish between the prokaryotes and eukaryotes and placed the bacteria along with eukaryotes. So this was not accepted. And second thing is what? Fungi were placed in kingdom plantae because what they are saying is whereas structurally, physiologically, and reproductively, they totally differ from the plants. They totally differ from the plants. So that is why you cannot consider them along with the plants. The next demerit is what? Lower organisms you have, like Euglena is there, Chlamydomonas is there, slime mold is there. They are considered by both zoologists and botanists. You all know actually Euglena, we consider them under animal. Whereas even the, the botany people, even they consider them under plant. Because why? Because it has got the flagella and all those things. So it is motile. So that is the reason why. So there are certain organisms, lower organisms, which possess both the animal characteristics as well as the plant characteristics. So that is the reason why it is very difficult So since this was not considered by both the zoologists and the botanists, their placement actually was a little bit ambiguous. So this is the reason why there were a lot of discrepancies. So this 2-kingdom classification was modified to 3-kingdom classification system. So that is how. So is it okay about 2-kingdom classification, students? Yes?
Yes, clear, ma'am.
Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. Clear.
Yeah. Now we will go to 3-kingdom classification system. Now coming to now 2-kingdom, just remember 2-kingdom means 2 types. One kingdom is Plantae and the other one is Animalia. In Plantae, you have all plants plus you have the bacteria and fungi. Whereas in the Animalia, you have all the animals. Remember like that. Then later on, what are the merits and what are the demerits, you can talk. Now coming to 3-kingdom classification system. Now this was actually given by Ernest Haeckel. So what he did is, in this, he added another group, new kingdom, which he called it as Protista. Okay. So Ernest Haeckel added a new kingdom called as Protista, and he gave us 3-kingdom system. So now, apart from the Plantae as well as the Animalia, another group is added, that is what we call Protista. So this system classified the organisms into 3 kingdoms. One is called Protista, then second one is Plantae, and the third one is Animalia. So what he did, he considered the animals like bacteria, blue-green algae, mycoplasms, unicellular protozoans, some simple unicellular green algae, that the charophyceae members, bacillophyceae algae, all these algae, okay, some fungi and slime molds, all these organisms, which lack the capacity of tissue differentiation, he considered them under one group and he put them under one kingdom that he called it as nothing but Protista. That is called as a Protista. So in the Protista, what he did, he actually grouped all these organisms. Like he included bacteria, he included blue-green algae, mycoplasm, some unicellular protozoa, some simple even unicellular green algae, then some charophyceae as well as bacillophyceae algae, fungi, slime molds. All these organisms actually, they do not possess the tissue differentiation. So he included them in the the kingdom, that is what he called it as the Protista. Okay. Now we will see what are the merits. So apart from that, what he did, of course, Plantae. In the Plantae, he included all the higher plants, and in the Animalia, as it is, all animals were included. Now coming to the merit of 3-kingdom classification. Now the advantage of this was placing the unicellular organisms in a different group called Protista. Now his classification, why it got significance is, what he did is he considered all the unicellular organisms, because bacteria are unicellular organisms, fungi, almost all, majority of them, all the unicellular organisms he considered to be under one group. And so that is the reason why he put them into one group, because there was no tissue differentiation. So that is the reason why all come under unicellular organisms. So since there is no tissue grade of differentiation, he considered all to be as one, and he put them under the Protista group. So that is why his classification had some advantage over the other 2 types of classification. Okay. Now coming to demerits. Now what are the demerits now? Now the characteristics or the drawbacks of his classification were, all prokaryotic as well as eukaryotic unicellular organisms were placed in one group. Okay, no doubt. Prokaryotic almost are unicellular. Okay, and eukaryotic unicellular also will be there, but he placed in one group. But when we know the differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic, we cannot put them in one group. Though they may be unicellular, but there are certain characteristic features which are actually totally different in prokaryotes as well as in the eukaryotes. So that is what their argument is. All prokaryotic as well as eukaryotic unicellular organisms were placed in one group. So, and also fungi were not classified properly. And there was also no mention of the virus. Even viruses will come now. So nobody actually till now have considered the virus. There was no mention of the virus. So that is why both unicellular and multicellular organisms were placed under Protista. So that is why, and even heterotrophic bacteria and the fungi that cannot prepare their own food, but still, how can you consider them under autotrophic algae? So that is the reason why you cannot put them in one group. So all these will come under the demerit. So that is why his system of classification also had the drawbacks. So now remember, Two kingdom classification is what? Plantae and Animalia. Now three kingdom classification is what? Protista, Plantae and Animalia. Now what are the drawbacks and all those things? Very, very clearly you should understand the concept and you can know about it. Is it okay?
Okay,
Yes?
ma'am. Okay,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah. Now coming to four kingdom classification system. Now four kingdom means now one more kingdom has been added. Now this was actually given by in 1956 by Lynn Margulis and Copeland. They added a new kingdom which we call it as the Monera. They call it as the Monera. Now we'll see what is it. Yeah. So so this particular four kingdom classification, they have included Monera. So that means this particular classification has how many kingdoms? Four kingdoms. One is Monera, second one is Protista, then you have Metaphyta, and then you have Metazoa. Totally they have changed now. Plantae has been changed. Okay, and also Animalia they have totally removed now. Okay, so it consists of what? Monera, Protista, then Metaphyta, and then you have the Metazoa. Okay, so what they did, they have taken into consideration. So based upon the simple cell structure, that is without a true nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. Okay, they have included. Then mycoplasm and prokaryotic forms of the primitive organisms are placed in this group. So what they did is, now they have included Monera. So in the Monera, they have included all the animals, especially the prokaryotic forms. Prokaryotic forms which do not possess or which are having a simple cell structure without any nucleus and without any membrane-bound organelles. Without any membrane-bound organelles. So all of them actually they put under the, almost all the prokaryotic forms actually have been considered under Monera. So that is why, so initially actually this kingdom Monera was called as Mycota. It was called as Mycota, but according to the modern terminology, they have changed its name to as Monera. So we can say the four kingdoms which come under these four kingdom classification are, one is Monera, Protista, Metaphyta, and Metazoa. So all the rest of the things are the same. Only they have given the different names. Now Protista, Metaphyta, you all know. Okay. Then you have Metazoa. So Phyta means plants na, and Zoa means animals. Like, okay. So what they did is Protista, all the what do you say? They have included, just now we have seen in the Protista all the unicellular, but here what they have done is prokaryotic forms they have separated and they have put into Monera, and the rest of the things are as usual in the Protista itself. Then Metaphyta includes almost all the, like you have Plantae, almost all the animals, and in Metazoa all the in Metaphyta all plants, whereas in Metazoa all the animals are included. So like that, this is the four kingdom classification. So in four kingdom classification, another kingdom has been added. That kingdom name is nothing but Monera. So in the Monera, they have included all the prokaryotic forms which possess a simple cell structure without a true nucleus and without the membrane-bound organelles. Okay, so this is about. Now coming to the merits of four kingdom classification. Now when we talk about the merits, it created the kingdom Monera. Okay, so what it did, it created the kingdom Monera. That means it has added one more kingdom, they're saying. Now coming to the demerits. Now the demerits are prokaryotes and eukaryotes are placed together. Okay, because see, they have taken only the prokaryotes, but eukaryotes, unicellular eukaryotes are also there now. So that is why what they are saying is prokaryotes and eukaryotes are placed together, and both unicellular as well as the multicellular are placed under Protista, and heterotrophic bacteria and fungi are also cannot prepare their own food, but still they are actually included along with the algae. So that is why you cannot accept this particular the classification. So these are the drawbacks, you can say, or the demerits of the four kingdom classification. Okay, so the merits of four kingdom classification is it has given another kingdom called Monera. The demerits is the prokaryotes as well as the eukaryotes were placed together, so you cannot place them into one. Unicellular and multicellular also cannot be placed under Protista, and heterotrophic bacteria and the fungi also cannot prepare their own food now. So that is why they cannot be placed under the autotrophic algae. So that is why, again, these were some of the drawbacks of the four kingdom classification. So that is why even this system was, not accepted. And again, they have modified another kingdom or given another kingdom, and that they call it as five kingdom classification system. Now we will see what is the five kingdom classification system. Now in 1969, Robert Harding Whittaker. Now Robert Harding Whittaker proposed the system of classification, and he added another kingdom called as fungi. He added another kingdom called as fungi. So he argued that the fungi, actually, which have been previously they were placed with plants, though. So they said that actually it has a unique method of obtaining the food. So, and also unique characteristic features when compared to that of the plants. So it cannot be actually kept along with the plants. So that is why he proposed a separate kingdom called as the fungi, and he separated it from the plants. So that is how now we have in the five kingdom classification, we have five kingdoms. Those are Monera, Protista, fungi, Plantae, as well as Animalia. So that is how they have given. So now again here see in five kingdom that Metaphyta and Metazoa have gone. Now again that original Plantae as well as the Animalia has come. So in four kingdom, what did they do? They have included all the prokaryotic forms, but that was not accepted. Why? Because prokaryotes and eukaryotes were almost put together. Unicellular and multicellular were put together. Heterotrophic and autotrophic were put together. So that is why they have disregarded. So Whittaker, what he did, he actually given another kingdom, and his argument was like fungi and the plants both possess different characteristics, so you cannot put the fungi along with the plants. So he has given another kingdom, and he named it as kingdom fungi. So likewise, in five kingdom classification, we have five kingdoms. One is Monera, Protista, fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. Rest of the things remains the same. Now Monera, just now we have seen Monera, all the prokaryotic forms are included. In Protista, here you have again apart from the unicellular, you have multicellular organisms and all those things. So they have included under Protista. Like you have different types of algae, lichens, modes, and all those things. Okay. Then in fungi only they have included the fungi, and in Plantae only the plants, and in Animalia only the animals. So like that we have five kingdom classification system. So Whittaker actually has given this five kingdom kingdom classification. Okay, so this is about the five kingdom classification. Now we'll see what are the merits again and the demerits of this. Okay. Now, so what are the criteria which were taken by Whittaker for his classification? So what he did is he had taken into consideration the cell structure, then body organization he has taken, mode of nutrition he has taken into consideration, reproduction, as well as the phylogenetic relationship. So that is why. So he has these five characteristic features he have taken into consideration, and then he has classified them. So this classification placed all the prokaryotes in the kingdom Monera, and all the unicellular eukaryotes actually were placed in the kingdom Protista, and fungi were elevated to the level of the kingdom. So that means what we can say here is now Monera. So in his system, he has concentrated on these, that is the cell structure, body organization, nutrition, mode of nutrition, reproduction, as well as the phylogenetic relationships he has considered, and he has placed all the scenes, because five kingdoms means five kingdoms are there, no? What are those? Monera, Protista, fungi, and then you have Plantae, and as well as Animalia. So Whittaker actually what he did, he has only given another kingdom that he called it as fungi. Already this you had Monera as well as the Protista, but fungi was not there. So he has actually included the fungi. So what he did, he included both the unicellular eukaryotes. I mean all the unicellular eukaryotes. Okay, into Monera, and then this classification placed all the prokaryotes. Okay, all the prokaryotes were actually included in the kingdom Monera. Unicellular eukaryotes included under Protista. Then fungi were included exclusively in the kingdom fungi. All the plants were included in the Plantae, and all the animals actually were included under Animalia. So likewise, he has given a very, very clear-cut classification, okay, based on these characteristic features. That is cell structure, body organization, nutrition, reproduction, as well as the phylogenetic relationships. So almost all the prokaryotes were included in Monera. Unicellular eukaryotes, only unicellular I'm talking about, in the Protista. Then fungi were included in the totally exclusively in separate group, that is kingdom fungi. All the plants were included in the plants, plantae, and all the animals under animal. Now we'll see what are the merits of his classification. Okay. Now it removed most of the confusions of the kingdom system, because now he has given us a clear-cut idea. So unicellular, he has segregated unicellular and multicellular, and based on the heterotrophic and autotrophic, that is the nutrition also he has considered. Even the body organization he has also considered, cell structure, as well as reproduction also, and also based on the phylogenetic relationship. So most of the confusions actually that were there within the scientific community actually were totally removed. So this system actually to some extent was accepted by many of the scientists. So it gave just a treatment, or you can say it justified to almost all the groups of the organisms. And also it has reflected on the phylogenetic relationships among the different groups. So that is why when compared to the 2 kingdom, 3 kingdom, and the 4 kingdom classification, this 5 kingdom classification system actually to some extent removed the confusions, justified almost all the groups of the organisms, and also given the phylogenetic or showed or exemplified the phylogenetic relationship among the different groups. Okay. Now, still there is one drawback also. So what is a drawback? We'll see. So though it gave a better arrangement of the taxa, but it still they said that it did not, give any position to the viruses as well as the lichens. You all know actually along with the bacteria, fungi, we have viruses are also there. Even lichens are also there. So there was no mention of the viruses and there was no mention of the lichens. Okay, so that is why what happened. So only in that particular case, actually, there was a drawback. So again, that six in the kingdom classification system has come. So they have modified this 5 kingdom classification given by Whittaker into 6 kingdom classification system. So it is also called as 3 domains of life, or you can also call it as 6 kingdom classification system. So this was given by actually introduced by Carl Woese, the scientist name. He divided the different life forms into 3 domains, like archaea, bacteria, or eukarya. Okay, bacteria. So 3 domains of life or 6 kingdom classification system. Now we will see both the things now. Okay. Now coming to the 3 domains, this was given by Carl Woese, who divided all the life forms, all the living organisms into 3 domains, which we call it as archaea, bacteria, and eukarya. So he proposed all these things on the basis of differences in 16S ribosomal RNA genes. Okay. So what he said is, domain archaea contains the kingdom Archaebacteria. Domain bacteria contains the kingdom Eubacteria, and domain eukarya consists of Protista, fungi, then you have plantae, and then you have animalia. That means we can say he has actually taken only the Monera, because in 5 kingdom classification we have seen what? We have seen Monera, we have seen Protista, we have seen fungi, and we have seen what? The plantae, as well as we have seen the the animalia. Yes or no? The same it is. Okay, but only thing is what he did is here, this kingdom Monera, he has divided them into 3 domains based on the 16S ribosomal RNA differences. Based on the basis of the difference in the 16S ribosomal RNA genes, he has classified this kingdom Monera into 3 different domains. What are those? One is called as archaea, another one is bacteria, and the third one is eukarya. So what it is, archaea, he said, it contains the kingdom. So domain archaea will contain the kingdom Archaebacteria. Then bacteria contains the kingdom Eubacteria. And eukarya will contain all Protista, fungi, plantae, as well as animalia. So that is how, yes, given the 16, this is called as 3 domains of life, or you can also call it as 6 kingdom classification system. Okay. So this was given actually by Carl Woese. Now we will see what are the merits of this 6 kingdom classification system. Okay. Now merits of 6 kingdom classification system is here. The prokaryotes are totally separated into 2 groups on the basis of differences based on the genetic similarities between different organisms. Okay, so they have grouped these organisms, so which indicate that they have a common ancestor. So based on that genes, that is 16S ribosomal RNA gene, what they did is they have divided these prokaryotes into two different groups. Okay, so that is the only merit. Now coming to the demerit, now they say that actually it is very time consuming. It is a lengthy process, and the scientists also have to study minute details in order to place the animals into different domains. Okay, so that is why especially the domain archaebacteria as well as the bacteria. So that is why it is very what do you say, a tedious job, and also it is a very lengthy job and also a time consuming job. And second thing is what, viruses and lichens did not get any position in this classification also. So that is why what they did is they have again disregarded this system to some extent. So that is the reason why actually, though the six kingdom classification system is being given, but still today the scientists follow the Whitaker's 5 kingdom classification system, because it is not that consuming. Okay, they might not have given what do you say, the position to the viruses as well as to the lichens, but they have taken into consideration almost all the characteristic features and they have classified these organisms. So 90% we can say the classification system holds good, whereas the minor differences like not giving position to the viruses as well as to the lichens is a drawback, no doubt. But when you talk about the six kingdom classification, though they have classified, they have given them into different classes, 6 different classes, but still they say that it is very consuming, and also the scientists need to actually study in detail when they want to classify the animals or place the animals into different domains, especially with reference to the archaebacteria as well as the bacteria. Of course, eubacteria means here plants and animals will come, not much difficulty will be there. But when you talk about the bacteria, because huge number of bacteria are there, okay, archaebacteria are there as well as the bacterial species are there. So it is very difficult for the scientists, because minute details also they need to study to classify them into these 2 different domains. So that is why actually this is one of the drawback. And another drawback, of course, we have already seen in the 5 kingdom, that is viruses and lichens do not have any position in this classification also. Okay, so that is how okay. Now this is about the different kingdoms they have given about what do you say, the Whitaker's 5 kingdom classification. So here, so that is why now also we talk the viruses and as well as the lichens. We consider them under separate group. We do not include them in any kingdoms. Viruses have to be studied separately. Even the lichens actually are studied separately, but they are not confined to one what do you say, a kingdom or not to one system. So that is why we can say that totally they are totally excluded. So that is the reason why we separate the viruses under different heading viruses. Likewise, lichens also we separate under the lichens heading, but not under what do you say, Protista, nor under Monera, nor under Plantae, nor under any of the classification system. So that is why totally they are under different what do you say, systems we need to study. Okay, now we will see. Now you know the 5 kingdom classification system actually is the most accepted, because it has given us a lot of information and it has made the classification very easier. Okay, almost all the characteristic features have taken into consideration. They have also considered the phylogenetic relationships, means they have also shown classified the organisms based on their common ancestry. So that is the reason why it had become very easy also for the scientists to study in detail about all minute details. And their system, that is Whitaker system of classification, that is 5 kingdom classification, is widely accepted, universally accepted all over the world. Till today, the scientists follow the 5 kingdom classification system. No doubt, the 6 domain kingdom classification system is there, but it is a time-consuming process. It is a very tedious process where the scientists need to go into minute details. Okay, still they do it, they follow, but to less extent they follow this when compared to the 5 kingdom classification system. Now we'll see under kingdom, what do you say, the Monera. Now we have 5 kingdoms under 5 system classification. No, first one is Monera. So it includes most of the primitive and the simplest organisms. All the prokaryotes such as bacteria, mycoplasma, plasma, blue-green algae, all will come under this particular group. Now their characteristic features are given. Okay, so they are unicellular. Okay, they are having prokaryotic cell structure. Cell wall is made of peptidoglycan. So all are included. Then nutrition is autotrophic, saprophytic, parasitic, symbiotic. Asexual mode of reproduction is there. No sexual mode of reproduction. And it includes what? Archaebacteria, eubacteria, cyanobacteria, and mycoplasmas. Okay. So this is one. So in detail, they have given. No need to talk about all those things. You can just give, here, you can just tell about kingdom Monera, what are, includes what and what are their characteristic features. Because in detail they have given. So when I send the, the notes, I will give you only the required one. Okay. So this they have given whole lot about all these things. So no need to study all this. So I'll give you an overall view.
Ma'am, last class notes we did not got.
Yeah. I will give. I'll forward it to Kishore sir. Kishore sir will forward you through the that common WhatsApp number is there, no? So that is the reason why I'm not sending. I will give it to Kishore sir.
Ma'am, many students don't have that offline notes also because we joined late. I too don't have offline class notes also.
Yeah, that you can take it from your students, Noma. Okay. Now see, this is the summary of the classification that we have done today. See here. Now first, coming to two kingdom, which was given by Linnaeus. What he did, he classified into Plantae as well as Animalia. Okay. Now next is three kingdom, which was given by Ernest Haeckel. So he has divided into three kingdoms: Protista, Plantae as well as Animalia. Then next is four kingdom. Now four kingdom, he has included four kingdoms he has given, that is Monera, Protista, Metaphyta and Metazoa. Okay. That is Monera, Protista, Metaphyta and Metazoa. This was actually given by Copeland, four kingdom classification. Then you have five kingdom classification, which was given by Robert Whittaker. So it is the most agreed, you can say, or accepted classification. That is Monera, Protista, fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. Okay, Monera, Protista, fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. And the six system classification, kingdom classification, or you can say three domain classification, which was given by Carl Buss, that is bacteria, archaea, as well as eukaryota, or just, okay. This is about the classification. Now, kingdom, when you talk about five kingdom classification, this is very, very important. I told you. Most of the questions will be asked on the five kingdom classification only. So you have to concentrate on the Whittaker's system of classification. So it has been divided into five, the kingdoms. One is Monera, Protista, fungi. Then you have Plantae, then you have Animalia. So tomorrow I'm going to give you, only little information, about the Monera. So just write about the characteristics and what are the different, organisms that are included under Monera. Then Protista, what are the different characteristics that have been taken into consideration under this particular kingdom, and what are the animals that are included under this. Likewise, fungi, then you have Plantae, and then you have got the Animalia. So only write down only the characteristics. Don't write in detail about the bacteria, the different organisms. Just five kingdom classification, which was proposed by Whittaker, and how he has classified these organisms based on which he has taken into consideration, on what basis he has classified these organisms. That means what are the characteristic features, and given overall view. Okay. So this is about the five kingdom classification. Do we have anybody if you are having any doubt, you can ask. So today I have taken, now I have told you, okay, so don't get confused. This is only the classification part I have given you. Now, when you know about the taxonomy, then in how the animals, like naming of animals, naming of organisms into different taxa, what do you mean by species, what do you mean by genes, and all those things. Okay, so that will come under taxonomy. Now, when you talk about systematics is nothing but clustering of the organisms or grouping of the organisms based on their certain principles like evolutionary significance or whatever it is. Okay, so don't get confused. So this is about the classification of biological classification. Biological classification means both plants and animals will come under. We cannot just ignore the plants because the classification system actually has been given based on both plants and animals. So even they have included the bacteria. So we need to study all in this particular aspect. Okay. So this is about the biological classification. Tomorrow I'll give you the rest of the things. Okay. Now, if you have any doubt, you can ask.
Ma'am,
Yes?
your class is clear, but what about paper 3, C3 and C4, ma'am?
No, ma. I'm allotted only C1.
Okay, your class is clear.
Yeah.
I'm asking just what about C3 and C4 paper, ma'am?
C3 and C4 paper, I will talk with Kishore sir and let you know. I don't know to whom they have given.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
If you have any doubts, you can ask. Okay. And don't bother, whatever the notes, whatever the PPTs I have prepared, I will forward it to Kishore sir. Kishore sir will forward it to you all in the WhatsApp. Yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, phylogenetic taxonomy and one more animal taxonomy. This is also important, ma'am.
Yeah. I'll tell you tomorrow. That little bit is there. I will tell you. I will cover that tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, please can
Yes,
you just in one class can you share all the topics which you have explained in offline classes? Just topic name. That's it.
You belong to Hyderabad Study Center.
Yes, yeah, I'm from Hyderabad Study Center, ma'am.
No, you don't come because see in common group only. No, now I cannot go about that already. I have closed that group now.
At least at last class, you just share all the topic names which you have taken
See
in
whatever
offline.
C1 classes, whatever are there, I will share it. Don't bother about that. So regarding the C3 and C4 or C2, whatever it may be, whichever teacher takes, they will send you. Don't bother about that. You can ask them. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Okay then. We will leave now.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.